Hello and welcome. My name is Cocina. I'm the CEO at Micolab. We are a company in Spain which provides services to truffle growers. And we are here because we're doing several tutorials in order to help you to have an idea of what establishing a truffle plantation entails. Okay, so you have another one that teaches you a little bit how to choose the proper plot to have a basic idea. We have another one that I'll show you where you can find it later when you have basics about truffle growing. And this one is the idea is just to show you step by step what you have to do from the moment you decide you want to jump in to the moment you actually plant your trees a little bit, so you have an idea of the cost that it's going to have, you know, like the economical cost, the time, the effort, and the emotional cost that may cost to do something like this. Okay, so what we are going to show you a little bit, I'm going to show you a little bit is basic steps to try to not mess up too much, you know. Plot selection, the things you're going to have to do is a plot selection. You're going to apply several measures in order to get the plot ready for sure. What soil works are basic, water supply, irrigation system, fencing, mycorrhizal analysis, how to establish the plantation, and plantation monitoring. We are going to talk 2 or 3 minutes about each one of these. So when you finally decide to do it, at least you have, you know, like a timetable of the things you're going to have to do and a little bit of what they mean. Okay, so the first thing you're going to have to do is select a plot, and then you're going to have to do a study of the plot. Okay. To have a study of the plot, if it's your first plantation, logically you should hire a professional, somebody who is specialized in truffles. Okay, don't hire someone that is specialized in orange trees. This is different. You know, we all have our specialty. I'm an agricultural engineer. I don't give any counseling on on orange trees. It's not my thing. You know, or on lettuces. You know, so you have to do a study. They will gather, normally they should go there and check your plantation site. They should gather the climatic data, and they should take some soil samples in order to be able to get soil parameters. And with all that information, you will get a report with conclusions of the agricultural suitability of the plot, and also what you need to do to get it ready. Okay, so here you are. Okay, this is just, people think that finding the suitability of a plot is just knowing how the soil is. It's a lot more than that, okay? This is a soil probe that went inside a Spanish well. So you have the upper soil, and you can see then the Spanish well, you know, the pit moss, and then underneath you can see the soil is completely different, okay? Well, that has to do a lot with tilling, but in order to do the soil analysis and to do the soil sampling, you have to find somebody who knows what they are doing. This is not, I mean, when you see this, you know you have to do double soil analysis here. Okay, so what data do you need your specialist, the guy or the girl or the woman or the man who is doing your work, your study? What are the data that that person should give you? At least in your report, you will have to know which tree they recommend for your soil and your climatic conditions. How far apart from each other are we going to put them? Because it depends on your climate a lot and on the tree species, the distancing you're going to choose, because the amount of sun that goes into the ground is very important when we do truffle growing. Okay, it can be too much or too little. You have to do this properly, and you have to manage the plantation properly later. They will tell you what soil improvements you need. You know, one thing, if you're listening to this, is because you're not Spanish, maybe you're not even European, it's in English. So in a lot of parts of the world, like Australia, like New Zealand, like Chile, like United States, they are liming the soils. They are putting limestone, calcium carbonates, to get a higher pH, and calcium carbonate, which is essential for truffle production. So in the soil improvements, you may have to have that, but there may be a lot of other things. The nutrient levels may have to be checked. They have to be improved, you know. So they will tell you how to correct that. More things. What do you need to do to work the soil properly? We'll talk about that later. Irrigation needs. We'll talk about that later a little bit too. Plant protection measures, especially the correct protective tube you're going to use, the protector for that. And then if you need to monitor things, and which things they recommend you to monitor. Okay, soil works. They will include, for sure, deep tilling, subsoiling. You know, you're going to do fruit tree plantation. So they need to be able to establish the roots deep. So whatever you have done before is always going to have to be at least 50, 60 centimeters deep, about 2 feet. Okay, you're going to have to do soil works at least to that depth. Okay. Apart from the normal tilling and subsoil and stuff like that, there are some specific things that may be related to your plot, and that are very typical in truffle plantations, which are, you have to either remove rocks or crush the rocks. That's depending on your soil analysis and your soil characteristics. You will have to do that. A lot of times you need to have an intermediate crop. Like there is something that needs to be improved, and then we use some crops to help us with that, or in order to clean contamination from the plot. So you have to, make an exercise of patience, and keep in mind that sometimes it will take you even up to 2 years to be able to actually start your plantation. But if you don't do this right, and you cut corners, then you're going to get less production, or you're going to fail. So it's worth waiting. This is a very interesting crop. It gives you a high yield, but only if you do it properly. Okay, so please be patient. Normally when you call me and you say I want to plant in 3 months, it's like, that is not happening. Okay. Okay, so this is, for example, is the field of a client who had to wait for 2 years before he could actually plant it. He had to derive rainwater to avoid contamination from these guys. He had to trench here. He had to improve the soil. This was very poor. He had many, many years of, of total abandonment, and a lot of rocks. There had tons of things had to be done. It took us 2 years, okay? But now he has a nice plantation. That's the important part. And the picture is pretty, so it's good. Okay. Rock crushing is you'll see it in many videos about how we do plantations, at least in Spain. It's very expensive. It's going to change our soil characteristics. A lot of times it's not a good option. And a lot of times it's totally compulsory, you have to do it, okay? But you better get a specialist to tell you about that. More things you may have to do. Don't forget our wonderful administration. That is something we see in movies. It's all over the world the same. They are going to make you beg for it, and you're going to have to do a lot of things. Civil servants are wonderful people. I used to be a civil servant, a teacher in the public system. You have to be, you have to remember they are going to ask you for a lot of paperwork for any single crap you want to do, and you have to keep that in mind. Sometimes it takes time. For example, if you have to do a well, here it may take up to 4 years to get permit to do a well, okay? You want to put a tank, one of those flexible tanks, it looks like a humongous trash bag, you fill it with water for irrigation. You have to ask for a lot of permits and an environmental impact study, normally here in Spain, and that's basically all over the world as far as I know. So, unless you live in a very a mountain somewhere with nobody around, desert island, you are going to have to deal with the administration. Remember that, okay? It's important, because if not, then you get fines. Sometimes they will close your plantation, they won't let you do it. You have to find someone in your country to help you with that. Okay, you're going to have to do some measurements about how to irrigate, how much water you have. If you have a well, how much water you can really accumulate in order to irrigate. If you irrigate directly, choose the correct irrigation system and drippers in order to do it, the emitters. There are several types. Install it, and then you're going to have to do fencing. Fencing is absolutely compulsory. Why? Because you don't want animals tripping all over your plantation, okay? When your plants are small especially, they will eat your plants, they will destroy them, they will bring you, a lot of times, depending on where you are, contamination from outside. We fence everything, okay? Okay, more thing. Okay, you did all the works, everything is ready, you have your pipeline ready, you have your field ready, you have to get the plants. You can talk to anyone all over the globe. We all know stories, and therefore, it's a disgrace, but it's all over the world, of plantations that have never produced and tons of plantations that are producing, especially tuber bromallii, which is a contaminant species that takes over the plantation. You have them in Australia, you have them in New Zealand, you have them all over Europe. I have clients in Greece, in Bulgaria, everywhere that have plantations contaminated with this. And there is a new paper, you can see it in our social media, from the United States. They are having the same problem. And it comes in the nursery plants. Okay, sometimes it comes because they imported the nursery plants from Europe, and they got it there. I mean, all over Europe you have them. In Spain it's a big problem. Sometimes it's because the nursery in the country where you bought the plants didn't check the truffles. They trusted the provider that they were tuber melanosporum, and they were not. Okay, so you have to analyze your plants. Even if you have no fear of bromallii, sometimes the plants don't have mycorrhizal. I mean, it's not easy. Sometimes one year you get wonderful plants, and it's like here in Spain, other people is like, oh, where are your plants from? Because they are so good. Oh, they are from this nursery. That nursery that year made a great job. 2 years later, they did a disaster. I've been in trials as expert for that. That happens. You have to check the plants. So get a date with the analyst. We're very busy in autumn especially, so if you don't tell us with time, we may not be able to do it for you. And inform the nursery that you're going to analyze the plant, because if the nursery is not going to let you analyze the plant, I would really recommend you to find another nursery and not choose that one, because I mean, if they have a problem with quality control, they are not, I mean, they are dodgy. We don't want that, okay? If possible, in Spain that's possible, in other countries it's not. Take all your plants home. So then when you are going to send me, for example, 1,000, we analyze 12, you're going to send me 12 plants from the ones you have at home. Well, I mean, I don't mean in your garden. Well, you can have them in your garden, but normally at the plot, you take them there to a place where you can irrigate, where we are analyzing, and if they are proper, then you plant them. If they are not, we return them. If you don't take them home, they may tell you, oh yeah, those are your plants. They know those plants are very good, and then they sell you those, you know, and that happens, so don't do it. Okay, sample the batch and send the plants to the analyst. We'll give you numbers to do a random sampling, and wait for results and make a decision. Okay, at the end of the road is your money, and you have to make a decision if you want to plant them or not, but at least you have to know what you're planting, and sometimes even if the plants are not perfect, we can improve them with some products sometimes, okay? But you have to analyze them, because if not, you can be, I mean, 7 years later, you're not getting truffles, you're not getting the right truffle species because you didn't do this right, okay? Okay, for example, plant analysis, we always talk about mycorrhizal analysis, but it includes what is called forest analysis too. And what we do there is to check the root, to check the health of the plant. And in this case, for example, 4 years later, the plant had died in the field because it had strangled. You know, it had a defect on the roots and it got strangled. In this case, these are plants that the client had to plug out because of bromallii. They never produced a single truffle of tuber melanosporum. And these plants are 10 years old, and this is very sad. Okay, establishing the plantation, this will be the last part, and then we'll be monitoring. Okay, so you plant the truffle trees, you use a tube protector. I don't have any reason to, to recommend anywhere in the world not to use a tube protector. Okay, these are tube protectors. The type of tube protector you're going to use is going to depend on your tree species and on your climatic characteristics, on your climate characteristics. But we are always going to use them, and we don't use mesh. Okay, we want something that helps the plant grow up and don't grow laterally. We make the plants grow faster, we avoid so much pruning, and we protect the plant from whatever climatic extremes we want to, because it's going to depend on the species, if it's from heat or from cold, and on your climate. Okay, so this is our established plantation, the way we normally do them in Spain. And then we put the irrigation. Okay, in this case it was done before because it's underground. A lot of times it's on top of the ground, and then we put it after we do the plantation, so we are not tripping all over the tubes while we are planting the plants. We have to make the holes, we break the pipes. No. Okay, finally, monitoring. In many parts of the world, truffle cultivation is so new, truffle growing, that we don't really know what we are doing. Okay, we don't really know how it is going to evolve very well. It's not like in Spain. In Spain, monitoring is a lot lower because most of the time you know that in 4 years you're going to get your first truffle and you're going to be fine, and that in 8 years you're going to start doing this and that. So we don't do that much. But in your countries, your soil parameters are different. A lot of times you don't have carbonates. A lot of times you have high levels of nutrients or very low, and we have it's normally recommended, depending on your soil study, to monitor the parameters every year, 2 years, 3 years. And then mycorrhizal development. You may think that your mycorrhiza is going to develop perfectly, but it may not. Okay, we have a case of a client that he's losing the mycorrhiza on his plantation. It's in Spain, and we are not totally sure why that is happening, but that happens. And you don't want to find on year 7, especially when you have 100 hectares, which is about 200 acres, planted, and you have started with 10 and you're having this problem. You're not going to plant the rest unless you solve this, you know. But if you don't do monitoring, you're not going to know that. And then, of course, we do long-term monitoring of experimental plots, like in this case, in order to see mycorrhizal evolution, to see when they change into contaminants, because that happens. And sometimes that's because the client, when they do big plantations, normally the client wants to know what's going on. So every 3-4 years we go and monitor mycorrhiza and soil parameters. Okay, so this is all you will have to do, like until you start, you know, until your plantation is ready. And I hope you found it useful. And in case you want to know more, this is the video I commented at the beginning. You can go to our webpage, to the English version, and you will have there truffle farming basic concepts. I really recommend it if you are really going to, if you are serious about starting something. And if you really want to do it, I highly recommend before you start, not when you already have a problem. I remember a client last year in the international course telling us like, oh, if I had known this 16 years ago, you know? No, before you start, this is, as far as I know, this is the only course of this kind around the world. This is totally technical. It combines technique and practice. We don't do anything else. It's really intensive. It's 6 days of everything from the moment you start thinking of putting a plantation until you plug it out because it doesn't produce anymore. It also includes dog training and a little bit of trading and grading of the truffles. We are very proud of it and we highly recommend it. We do it once a year in February when truffle harvest and truffle aroma is at its prime. So you can, really get a feeling of what it is. Okay, you can find more information in our webpage. Anything you need, you can contact us. You can follow us on social media. Our social media, we try to make it didactic, not only saying how cool we are very cool, we say that once in a while, but what we do mostly is to show you what we are doing and things we are seeing that are maybe important for you. So I would recommend you to go into our social media for that. And anything you need, you can write to us, call us, or check our webpage. And thank you. I hope you enjoyed it.